meth or something, which is,
yeah. And probably that's the problem with George Bush Sr. He always tried to prevent his boy from making mistakes. So
right.
This guy never learned what a real mistake is, and he's still not learning.
Right. It's only been a few years where it hasn't been that many years since he was doing coke himself,
Yeah.
And drinking too.
Hypocrite. Total. I mean, that brings us back to this, to the whole music thing. I mean, when I first heard that you're doing the Hidden Hand, that was when I was over at your house, and you were telling me about this new band, and this is the political outlet of Wino, where you're gonna deal with like political issues and stuff. I found this very, very interesting in the first place, but because I didn't expect it from you, and it brought me to the questions like, now someone else is, or one guy more in this world is really believing into the power of music and the content of music being able to change something, be it the society itself or be it just the minds of people. What is your approach to it? I mean, what do you think?
I think we have a small voice,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to use it. Is what I think. I think that it's important, and it feels like really almost my duty. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel very strongly about if something needs to be said, then you should say it. I mean, braver people than I have died for their beliefs. So I think that if you don't speak up, then hey, you pretty much deserve what happens,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Of course, if I didn't have children, I would probably be a little bit more active, because I think actually physically going out and demonstrating is important. But they got you on videotape, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so you have to think, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful these days because it's not a game. I think that these people that are very serious,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that these people have a lot of power, and I think that they're very paranoid. If you get too close to the truth, then I think maybe that you're not going to be around anymore.
Mm-hmm. From this,
William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse. He's dead now. They killed him.
yeah.
Yeah.
How's your approach or your feelings of the difference when you really? I mean, when you go out and speak, it's the stage. This is where you transport your message from. So, like, this is kind of the main part of your life is playing your music live, and coming from this point of view, what you just said, that you have to go out and speak out. Do you see any difference for yourself between touring in the US and touring in Europe?
The US was a lot slower to catch on.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with there's just so much geography there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can travel 10, 15 hours to get from one city to the
Mm-hmm.
next. Great distances. And in those distances, everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape, the physical geology, the landscape can change. The whole climate can change. And also the climate of the society changes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know how it is. I think it's pretty much the same everywhere, but every city is a little bit different.
Yeah.
The vibe is different from the people. The scene is different. There's just, and I know for sure that in the States it's like it's harder to make it big.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all the right push, if you have the radio song, and if you have the big money behind you or whatever that's make the push, then usually it's you make it big. I mean, if you have the right song and if you have that kind of like, I'm gonna play ball with the with the pop.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're still check it out. I mean, St. Vitus broke up how many years ago? 90. Well, okay, let's just say this. I left St. Vitus in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I left St. Vitus in the early 90s, and the Vitus reunions were 2003.
That's right.
Okay, so the Biden Reunions was in 2003. So here it is. Okay, let's just say, well, actually, I think I left in like 91 or 92. From 1992 to 2003, in that time period, we can play a festival in Germany, and okay, there's the people there to see all different bands, but when St. Vitus plays, the people that are not interested go out, and the people that do interested come in, and it was what, 7,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
5,000 to 7,000.
Between
That's
5,000
what
and 7,000 people.
Yeah.
In the States, after all these years, we play right in the middle of the United States so that everybody can come that wants to come. And what do we have? We had just shy of 500 people. That's all. We couldn't even sell out completely a 550 seat venue. So what does that tell you?
That's what you just said. I mean, like, that is this. It tells me a couple of things. It seems to be pretty hard to catch up and to make people aware of a certain style. It has probably something to do with geography. What you just said. I mean, I know that there's plenty of St. Vitus fans out there, also in the U.S., and I'd say like maybe another 100% compared to what you were drawing was just unable to get there because it's so far away.
Right.
It also tells me that what people say, the prophet doesn't count in its own land, that it takes like a follower to bring a style up. And that's kind of the thing. I mean, like, it's more than obvious and everyone knows it, that St. Vitus is one of the basics of the style that we call doom, and probably that we call stoner rock as well. But you have been ahead of your time. You have been the first ones. And the other thing is, like, you've never been part of any scene totally as St. Vitus, coming from a punk rock scene, drawing a metal crowd, but later on you haven't been a band like Candlemass or anything. On the other hand, I'd say, like, if a band like Caius would do a reunion nowadays, it's going to be more than 500 people. Even if they just have been followers. And don't get me wrong, great band, I love them a lot. But it's not that they completely invented something. I mean, one could say St. Vitus didn't as well. It was Black Sabbath, but you know where I'm coming from. But it is always been the same, that this kind of style of music that you're playing was more famous in Europe. But what my initial question was more about is, like, what about the feedback of the content of your music? It's like, when you said earlier that you want to speak out, and that you want to say something and want to explain something through your content. And I believe that if you have this attitude that you expect some kind of a feedback, that you want to see something happening in the crowd, and is there a difference? I mean, do you feel understood in Europe? That's what
I do. And I actually really enjoyed this whole round of interviews and press that I've been doing. I think that the people are asking some very good questions, and I feel like that the press is on my side in relationship not only to the music that we're making, but also to our political views. You know, I don't feel as constrained as I would maybe talking in the U.S. I mean, I will still say the same things, but lingering in the back of my head is there's still a stigma put on. But so there's something about Europe that is more open. There always has been. I mean, you know, hey, nobody cares whether there's a set of tits on a billboard here. I mean, but if you pick in the U.S., man, good Lord, you'd have a ring of, like, you know, people on their hands and knees with their Bibles fucking crying because there's a pair of fucking tits on the billboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just it's hard. It's a little bit weird. I don't understand it. Maybe because the United States is so new that it's so new, and it brings back to the religion thing again. It's just really people are so zealous
Mm.
You know, and so intolerant, I think, really. You know? I mean, not intolerant in the way that, okay, they won't, you know, if they see a crying child by the side of the road, they're going to stop and help the child, you know, usually, of course, unless, you know, they get one of the many weirdos. But the bottom line is, I mean, it's not like that we're not compassionate people,
Mm.
and it's not like we're not intelligent people. But I think that there is a divide. I think there is definitely a divide, and it's hard to explain why, really. You know.
Yeah, it's like
Why is the South this hotbed of like religious extremism?
yeah. There's no
there
reason for
the
it.
red states and the blue states, you know. I mean, and everybody's like, you know, because the people that all the cities, most of the people that live in the cities, they seem to be, you just seem to be forced into more of an intellectual existence,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's kind of thing. Yeah, but
They're in a lot of different type. But then you've got the top of the heap. You've got the very top. You've got the president of the United States, and he's a, you know, hardcore right wing evangelical.
I still don't think
For
that he
example,
really is,
well,
but it's his shtick.
let's talk about stem cells, okay? Let's talk about stem cells. When the stem cell thing first when it became apparent
Mm-hmm.
that stem cells were real, and that stem cells were the most valuable thing that we could ever have to treat disease.
Mm-hmm.
And he is still stuck on this ethical thing of destroying the human embryo, like, you know, okay, it is life, and I understand, but these embryos are going to be destroyed anyways.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the whole snowflake baby theory. But the bottom line is, why would you put your foot in the way of the path of curing disease or healing great sicknesses? Why, for example, why did the federal government suppress the knowledge of drugs like Ibogaine, which cures heroin addiction, which takes away the craving for crack cocaine, and why? Why is the government? Why is the government not? Why is it such an ethical question over whether someone whose brain is dead does not have the right to die?
Yeah.
Why
Good
did they
question.
put Jack Kevorkian in jail for assisted suicides? If I have a life-threatening disease that's going to stretch out,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're going to die in 5 years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a slow, painful death. And by the way, your health insurance doesn't cover this. So that means your family not only is going to have the burden of watching you die in agony, but they're also going to have a burden of $500,000
Mm-hmm.
just for you to die. So you make a decision. It's better. I want to take my own life. I want to die. I think that person should be allowed to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I agree.
And so, where is this this morality that is going to empower him with what gives him the fucking right to stand in the way of a cure for somebody's disease?
Yeah, that brings us back to the whole like religious thing as well. It's like it's a deep belief into that God-sent attitude, that a disease that you have is kind of God-sent. And that brings us also back to that what we discussed before, this whole like, why don't people get into it and realize that they're doing wrong, that they have like 2 meters that they take the length of what they decide, that they just judge one thing this way and the other thing in a completely different way. And that's probably the problem of society that we have nowadays anyway, that people feel or find out that they cannot answer the questions that are storming upon us.
Right.
That's probably it.
I mean, it's nice to, philosophize for sure, and I think that it's important to philosophize. I think it's important to talk. And I think it's important to try to understand. I mean, I'm going to be the first one that will listen to somebody else's point of view. I've done quite a bit of research on different religions. I feel that I'm a very tolerant person, But I think anybody that says our religion is better, or we're better than you because our religion is the only religion, I think is really, if they really believe it, they're fooling themselves. And if they don't really believe it, and they're using it as a tool, like you mentioned earlier, then I mean that's the definition of evil right there.
Yeah.
Right.
There you have it.
Yeah. So
we're talking a lot about your attitude, your approach to things, your investment in music, and your life that mirrors in the music that you play. I think it's a good idea if you are up for playing as a song.
If you're up for listening, fine.
That's great. I got a guitar.
Yeah.
Right here.
Let's have a look.